Is your local bus company serving your football team. Buses run every 10 minutes. Avoid the traffic. Don't get stuck in the delay. Get Ipswich buses today. A single from only £1.20, a return from only £2. Find out more information at www.ipswichbuses.co.uk. Ipswich Buses, proud to partner with Talking Town. Hello again, my friends, and you are my friends, and it's Monday. We've made it through Monday, my peoples. We have come to the end, and finally tomorrow is Tuesday, and after Tuesday it all starts to get a little bit better. Got the Wednesday show and everything else, so we've made it through what I would call the worst week, worst day of the week. Sorry, although maybe you disagree. Let me know what your worst week day of the week is. You can see it's Monday night. My words, my mouth, my brain, this is not in gear. They're not collaborating. I'm all contented out. We've just been doing some wrestling content for TikTok, some F1 content for TikTok, and obviously did the F1 fan show live. If you're a big fan of F1, do check it out. We've got the cricket show tomorrow. We've got the Talking Town March time machine tomorrow. Then we've got the Wednesday show. We've got the away day guide on Thursday. It's a busy week here at the T.T Towers. So hopefully you'll enjoy the content, and hopefully you'll enjoy what we've got in store for you this evening. Just to quickly give you a heads up of what we're looking to talk about. But as always, it's a live platform. It can go in any direction, and you're more than welcome to have your say. We've got ahead of the Q&A tomorrow with Mark Ashton, Andy Rolls and co. 2 questions that you'd love to ask anyone at the football club. Our playoff chances, where are we at? Do we still believe Norwood? And obviously, as we've got Alex on, who's our talking wrestling expert, I thought we'd go with a little bit of a triple threat. James Norwood, Macaulay Bonne, Joe Pigott. Who starts up front? And rank them, because this is something I saw on social media. The ranking of who is our top striker, not including Jackson, because he's injured, so that'd be unfair. Who's our top of those 3? Who's the bottom of those 3? Many people had Norwood positioned at the bottom of those 3. So I'd like to know how you see it, because that could go a long way into figuring out who's being kept in the summer and who's not being kept as well. And then, of course, we've got 3 number 10s. Are we going to want 3 number 10s next year with Aluka out of contract, Selena's loan expiring? Do you keep one of them, bring them both back, sell Chaplin? What do the contributors feel of that one? And then, of course, Prediction League week number 5. We've got Gino Casso in the room. Welcome, Gino. Welcome, Matt. Welcome, Anthony Still. Good evening, Roy. Lee Brown is here. Nice to see you on Saturday, Lee. I hope you're well. Mike the Fisherman, the king of the armchair supporters, is also here. So when we come to James Norwood, we might have Mike up here. He is obviously chairman of Lord Norwood's Appreciation Society. Saj, nice to meet you on Saturday. I hope you're well. Thanks for popping by. Very busy chat. Let's go ahead and just remind you all that you... Oh, hello. Lee Brown. One, they would love to meet up with Neil Perks and Stephen Parry again with Talking Town. That is what Talking Town does. It brings people together. It's what we're all about. Talking of which, you can support the platform through our Ko-Fi, become a TT Fifth Stand Ultra, or become a YouTube member. There are 2 ways of supporting the platform. Only if you can do so. I do know the rate of inflation is ridiculously high. So only if you can do so, please, if you can, consider supporting us. Links are in the chat. All of these people that you're seeing on your screen are already members, either via YouTube or our Ko-Fi, and are responsible for the content we put out. So, blame them, basically, because without them, I wouldn't be sat here. I'd probably be in bed, to be fair. I am getting old. I am getting old. Talking of which, let's go ahead and bring in our first contributor. I think he's the oldest we've got on the platform. You are the oldest, aren't you, George?
I don't know. I'm not having that.
Although you're looking 10 years younger with the beard gone, and it's amazing what a fortnight off can do. Look, you have time for a shave.
Yeah,
how are you?
Out of COVID to make you look a little trimmer.
Well, I wasn't going to go there because I didn't know if you wanted to spill the beans to the rest of the world. But as you've gone there, how was your battle with the vid?
No, it's fine. Yeah, it was. I got off light, I think, is the best way to put it. It was fine. I was rough for a couple of days. My brain just stopped working. Literally stopped working. That was the worst thing about it. And it's bad enough at the best of times, but
mine never starts. To be fair, let's be honest, it never starts. You missed the Portsmouth game, didn't you? Because which does remind me, you still do owe me some coin, but
I keep asking you for your bank details.
It's a separate issue, that one. It's a separate issue. But you missed the Portsmouth game.
When give it back to me, I'll give it back to you.
Oh, fuck. Well, in that case, I'll be waiting a long time. I better get on the blow of my man because I'll be waiting a bloody long time otherwise. But so you missed that game. But we've been in fine form recently, and it's been a while since we were the dominated team. Again, on Saturday, we dominated an opposition.
Yeah.
You were a big Paul Cook, I wouldn't say detractor, but you were somebody who put a lot of thought into whether we should stick with Cook or twist. The club ultimately ended up twisting. Just how are you with McKenna? What's your gut saying with the boy wonder?
I think he's great. My gut is saying that at some point we're going to lose him to a bigger club. But obviously not anytime soon. I think my first impressions seem phenomenal. What could anyone complain about from the first, 2.5 months, 2 months?
2.5, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely outstanding effort.
What makes you think we're going to lose him?
Chalk and cheese from what we had before, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's not, yeah. I mean, very much new school manager, right? Compared to the old school.
And that was, that was one of my biggest criticisms of Paul Cook, was that he was just very old school, and he was the bottom of a line of very old school managers, it felt like. I don't think even Paul Hurst's approach was particularly modern from the limited time that we saw him in charge. But I just thought he was, he didn't really have it in him to adapt to what is fast becoming the modern game is sort of seeping down into the league through the leagues, isn't it? So,
oh gosh, yeah. I mean, you've got League One goalkeepers expected to play like Edison. Which is just baffling at times to me, because I don't think a lot of League One goalkeepers, no disrespect to them, they're much better than I ever was, are maybe that way inclined, comfortable with the ball at feet.
Yeah.
But what makes you think, before I bring in talking wrestling's linchpin, the bad guy, what do you think? What makes you think we're going to lose? We might lose McKenna. What's that worry? The pit in your stomach?
What I mean is that's. I don't think we'll lose him like imminently, but it's nice to have a manager that you can see one day. I don't remember the last time I thought about a manager that Ipswich had. When we lose this guy, like when we take off, which it feels like we will, the next thing, like Ryan Lowe left Plymouth. It feels like that's the most likely outcome from this relationship at the moment, which is a nice feeling. Don't get me wrong. I'm not speculating anything at all. I'm just saying it's a nice way to feel about the manager, rather than when the hell is this going to actually start to pay dividends that we've been promised.
Where's the manager we were promised, instead of hang on, this guy's actually for real. We need to be with him as long as we possibly can, because he's going places, with or without. I do agree with that, and I'd put money on him being an international manager in his career, because I think he's going to be a very, whether it's with his home country or not, that doesn't really matter much anymore in world football. But he's certainly something special. And I read recently, actually, George, an article, I think, from a Manchester newspaper about Ipswich Town's. So he's already got eyes on him that are not just in Suffolk, and he's only enhancing the reputation further. I see the Not 20 podcast again glowing about McKenna and Town. We're not a secret, are we?
No, and I think it's hard to be anyway, because of the size of club that we are in League One. We haven't been, but the problem is that the reason we haven't been a secret recently is because we've been massively underperforming for the last 15 years. But
longer.
Yeah. So it's nice to be out there and for the takeover, and I'm sure that the owners are probably happy that some of the pressure's been lifted too. And that they can just hopefully sit back and watch the success come over the next 18 months, hopefully.
It does genuinely feel, doesn't it, that this year's season ticket launch is actually one not based off a manufactured optimism where they're trying to tell you something like, this is our year, believe it, please. It actually feels genuinely like actually they're just saying almost what the fan base are feeling, which is a huge wave of optimism about the new campaign after this one.
Yeah, it's not the kind of, it doesn't feel quite as manufactured as you say. It's a good way of putting it, as the sort of new era campaign that they had, whether that was last year or the year before. But yeah, and I think that there's still a bit of a bad taste from the Demolition Man bit at the end of last year, which was kind of, it was easy to get momentarily wrapped up in, I think, but because we're all a bit pissed off with how things were going. But in hindsight, that probably wasn't the best approach.
No, I think we all fell into believing him, because we all knew that they were rubbish, or they certainly hadn't performed as such, and we kind of like, yeah, do you know what? Scrap it, blank bit of paper, start it again. But even before then, I can't remember a season really under Marcus Evans where it was genuinely exciting to receive the season ticket papers through the post. Like, it was always I'll be there. But I mean, reading the letters from Paul Jewell or Roy Keane or whoever saying, we're going to be great, and it's like, well, you're not at the moment. Mark Touchford bumped into Kieran the other night in Sainsbury's, and he said he's got his eye on Aaron Drinnan. Now, I know you're lying, Mark, for a fact. Sarah Davis, McKenna has an amazing future as a manager. I think he'll be with us for a while. Norman Greenwald, Carl Robinson on Quest. He hopes we don't get into the top 6 as he really fears us. Craig at Portsmouth. So what's it to be? 2 weeks in the sun or renew our season tickets? No contest. Town always wins that one. Yeah, I remember I had some Tesco shares once. I remember selling them for my season ticket. I did. Genuine. You were all given shares if you worked at Tesco's for a certain amount of time. Staff shares. No, I'm genuine. I'm being serious. Mike D, imagine wheeling and dealing in the stock market already. You know what I mean? This time next year we'll be millionaires. Mike D, imagine 40 years when we have. Where's the Drinnan stuff coming from tonight, people? Don't be triggering me. Like while I calm down and have a drink of. Oh fuck.
We're gonna have to buy him back for £5 million first.
Don't. Mr. Lionel, have you calmed down since Saturday? You and Matt going at it.
Yeah. I love Matt. I do, but
someone's got to.
I just don't buy into that whole managers a failed routine. Kind of like sometimes he does it to get a reaction, I think, half the time.
So this goes back to what Matt was saying on the Talking Town podcast, both last night and last week. Last week's was definitely probably the best one to be watching. Box Office comes to mind, where he says it was, the ownership and the chief executive have to take responsibility for Town not making the playoffs. It's a failure. Is that right? Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah.
So we know what you feel about it, Lionel. George, I think, is probably hearing that for the first or maybe the second time. What do you think?
Sorry, say again. That they have to take some responsibility.
Yes, not the manager. It's the ownership and the chief executive. I believe Matt. He's not happy.
Manager. Hang on, not the manager at all.
Well, no, because you changed the manager. So, like,
the previous manager has to take a lion's share of the responsibility.
I think he'll say. I think he'll agree with that. I think he'll agree with that.
I agree. I agree to a point. I think the ownership. I think the ownership and the chief exec have to take some responsibility for it, but that's because that's their role. That's their position within the business. Everything that happens below them is their responsibility.
But I think the failure is theirs.
They agree with that.
But the failure is theirs.
In terms of not getting to the playoffs, that's very specific. I think to be able to lay that on their doorstep, you'd have to know and be able to tell exactly when the moment was that the playoffs were out of sight for us. And in real terms, based on where we're at the moment, we were probably 3 weeks late, which is crazy. Like, you can't blame them for. You can't, like, hindsight is a glorious thing.
I was telling them, fucking get rid of him.
And that's fine. But it's easy for us as non-chief execs and non-owners of football clubs to sit here and say this manager is not what I expected and not doing what I anticipated that he should be doing, which we did quite a lot leading up to Cook going. But at the same time, I would say probably a small majority of Town fans were surprised that he left as early as he did. So You're not going to please everyone.
No.
So I think that's I think it's unfair to specifically say that that they take responsibility for us not hitting the playoffs, because you could equally say it's because we had 2-1 draws 2 weeks ago. But
I don't think you can put anything at their door. They gave both manager every single resource imaginable. Got Bertrand Selena wandering around the field, for crying out loud.
But it's not just about giving resource to people. That's not the only thing that's their job to do, is it? Part of it is recognizing when the right time is to change a manager. And I'm not saying they got it wrong, because I think they got it pretty much spot on. Like, I think we all would have done it slightly sooner, but we're not putting money into the club, and we didn't have to have that negotiation with the manager or with each other to know when that was. But it's not just about pumping money into the club. I think that, again, they'd probably agree with that too. They have to bring the right people in to make the best use of that money as well, and make sure that they have to hold those guys accountable as much as vice versa. So I think it's, of course they have responsibility for what's gone on this season, but it is.
But do you blame them? If we finish 9th, 7th, 8th, 10th, would you put the blame at their door?
No, because it's not it's not a word that I want to use for this season. Like, if we don't make the playoffs,
that is a failure.
It won't be for the want of trying. It's a failure across the season, but it is not a failure since when the season started for me, which is 2.5 months ago.
Okay, fair point.
This part of the season, and I think it's unfair to yes, across the season it's a failure, but you could not have imagined Kieran McKenna having a better start than the one that he's just had.
No, as somebody said in the chat, the managerial bounced and it's still bouncing. Mike D, I'm Team Matt. I think that with the wage bill, there's no excuse not to be in the top 6. Mike the Fisherman even knew the syndicates. Okay, Neil Wilmore. To be honest, with the turnover of players, I always worried that this season might go this way. The changing manager, it's not their fault. Was Cook their man? No one knows. Still, Lee, Matt is right to a point, but they have made amends. Remember, nothing is certain in football. Yeah, fair point. Safety guy, like to see a safety guy. Love McKenna and what he's doing. Hope he's just not using us for his CV and as a springboard to a Premier League job. If he is, get us a couple of promotions first. We're going to have to really to entertain a Premier League job.
Isn't that what every manager's doing? That's football these days. No one is. Players and managers, very few of them are playing or working for a club because that is their dream job.
Yeah,
until they get to the top.
Unless you're managing Man United, Real Madrid, Barcelona, one of the world's superpowers, nobody is in there for. I mean, unless your name's Sean Dyche, nobody's in there forever job. I think Sean Dyche will probably, die in the post of Burnley manager. I think he's just going to be set there for life. He's enrooted, as it were. Chris Boyd. Always remember, if we'd axed Cook sooner, it's highly unlikely we'd have landed McKenna. But then you got to believe if Ashton can pull a rabbit out of the hat with McKenna, he could have done it a couple of months earlier. As the screams to a point, someone would have been too loud before K-Mac became available. Simon and Nikki, the owners have given us everything we've always wanted. Can't fault them. No, I'm absolutely with you, Nikki. I think previous ownership have given a carpenter a ratchet screwdriver. At least this ownership gave our manager a power tool to work with. He couldn't use it. He had no bloody idea what to do with it, but he had a power tool, Alex, and the new head carpenter knows what to do with it.
Back on those points that were raised in the chat about biggest wage bill, and I don't dispute that we've got the biggest wage bill, but it's not Mark Ashton's responsibility. It's not the owner's responsibility to get a tune out of said assets. It's the owner's responsibility to put the assets that the manager wants in place, which they did. Yeah, and it falls at it's the manager's job to get a tune out of those assets. And we quite often said countless times that maybe Paul Cook isn't the man to get a tune out of this team. Maybe someone else will come in and will do it.
I've got Homer Simpson in my head with a power tool, just like literally all over the place, like you can't control it. Mike D says, don't forget, no recruitment when you go with the power tool. So as we're on the Ashton they have the Q&A tomorrow. I'll drop the link now. if you had 2 questions you could ask Ashton, Rolls, McKenna, anyone at the football club, what would they be? I'm intrigued to know. If you could go tomorrow, if you are going to go tomorrow, if you could ask anybody, what would it be? George, what would you want to sort of dig in and find the answers to here?
So I got as far as writing one thing down.
That's fine.
Yeah, the only thing that the thing that sprang to mind, and it's not really it's more to put things to bed and to give them a chance to answer. Really, I think I would ask them about their thoughts on Kieran's comments about the academy, not in any more leading way than that, but just a response, because Kieran was super emotional. I'm sure you guys have covered it on the channel already, and I've missed it, so I don't want to bring it up too much. But he was obviously very emotional, and I completely understand that. That spilled over into Saturday by all accounts, and it wasn't entirely clear. And I get it because he didn't want to be too specific, and that's probably right. But I'm just curious about what their thoughts are on that, and what the concern is, whether there is a concern, because obviously I've seen, the Brentford model has been mentioned a lot, and Brentford obviously got rid of their academy, but I don't think that's something that I don't think that's what Kieran's sort of implying is on the cards. I think he probably would have made more of a fuss. But yeah, I'm just curious about what they're, giving them a right to reply to it, and I'm sure they wouldn't, but I would be curious about how they feel about those comments.
I think, yeah, and that's that sort of a triple-headed question, and I think, as Mike D says, that's a great question, a really good question. I think with Dyer, I think this club has to get some way, and I don't know if you can do this, George, with the previous employee, because that's a little bit different. But with we've got to get previous players and the club really in sync, and make it a place that the previous players want to come back, enjoy, love to be around. I'm not quite sure you can do that with an ex-employee, because obviously things happen that you don't know behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And with the academy, the Brentford model has been mentioned. You're right. What way would you like it to go? For me, I'd like it to be a little bit of a hard reset, because we said earlier in the show, George, we've not been successful in 20 years. You have a family, you have a son, you're a Town fan, you're on a Town platform, so I've got no doubt the answer will be Ipswich Town. But if Norwich or Town or West Ham came calling for your lad's signature,
yep,
put the Town hat aside just for one moment, where would you send him?
It depends what they said to me and what they said to him.
We love you. We think you've got great first team potential. We're going to really look after you. We're going to put you through the best education. All the same things. All three say the same things. You just simply got to choose between the football clubs. Because for me, I think a lot of parents would choose the Premier League teams, because they would be perceived to have better facilities.
Well, if the Ipswich thing was put to one side, then yeah. If you're telling me to put my allegiance to one side for a second, then yes. Part of it would come down to his allegiance, and we still haven't quite ironed that out yet.
Oh, but, okay.
Well, at the moment it's Man City, so I'm fine.
He's a better parent in here, George. Come on, son.
I'm fine as long as it's someone ridiculous. But yeah, so yeah, if it was from a neutral parent's perspective, it would just come down to what the club said. At the moment, locality would come into play, and that doesn't rule Ipswich out. But for me, obviously, I'm in the middle of Norwich, so. And they travel. One of Fox's schoolmates is in the Norwich Academy, and phenomenal footballer, and he travels all around the country already. He's 8 years old. 8 years old. It's bonkers. So locality for home games would probably come into it. But yeah, it's a really, really tough question to ask when you have such firm allegiances to a football club. Obviously, I would give everything for my son to play for Ipswich. But equally, I would, I'd love for him to play for any club at the highest level if that's what he wants to do.
Yeah, Alex, what do you think about the academy, Alex? Before we come to your question,
my question is actually very much sort of into the academy, because I would still like us to go down the route of having like a academy complex, if you like. So rather than sort of get away from the whole digs routine and players living in Chambers House and all of that stuff, and get into the model of actually having like an academy, almost like I don't know if you could call it like a college or university style thing, whereby it's all in one place, like accommodation, football, education, have it all, managed under one thing in the way the football club wants to do it, whether that is still because I remember I asked that very same question when the ownership sort of first came in on one of the shows where we had one of the owners on, I think. And I'm still very much of it. If we are going to have an academy, I'm still much of the opinion that I would want it on that model, because then if they're all in one place, you can control you're in a lot more control about what goes on, culture being taught the right way, and you can control that a lot more. It's
perception, though, isn't it? That's what I think. A lot of times,
you look at. I know we're talking. This is blue side thinking, but you look at like the Spanish academy, like the Barca academy, and stuff like.
Oh, fucking hell, Alex. I mean, we've gone from one extreme to the other here, pal. Steady on. The last academy player to score for, I think, was Conor Wickham. Pump those brakes, big boy. We've got right. Let's get some comments. We've got lots of questions coming in. I love it. Why can't we score from set pieces? Says Norman Greenwald. I mean, that's a question you've got to ask. You really have. Robert Grimsey, how can you treat your disabled Section 6 fans to a better and safer match day experience? Mark Tuxford, where did you get your Peaky Blinder hat from, Mr. Ashton? And have you looked into the availability of Aaron Drinnan this summer? So funny. No, he hasn't. I wouldn't have thought. I mean, he might be on the dashboard, playing the way he is. He might be lighting up that dashboard. He might be looking at it going, Aaron Drinnan, that's a name I recognise. I hope not. Paul P. Academy missed out when Evans didn't go for category. One started to save a few quid. Another decision which hurt us badly. Lee, wrong perception to think the bigger club is best for the player. I disagree, Lee. I, as a parent, but also as a player, actually. Premier League team on your CV, as we were discussing with McKenna, George, a player being released from the Premier League. Like, look at us. A lot of fans at the moment, George, are saying maybe McKenna can go and poach a few of the younger players from the Premier League that are released, etc. Well, you're looking at that because it's Premier League players being released, and you're perceiving it to be better than, say, a Tristan Nydam, who was injured, then out of contract, and ultimately retired through injury, but somebody who hasn't played that higher level. So perception is right, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. You've hit the nail on the head. The people want clubs, lower league clubs specifically, to go poaching for these, released gems from Premier League clubs, but you can't have it both ways, right? If you want,
because you think they're taught better, they're coached better facilities, everything. You do. Sorry, go on.
And the category status of the academy now does imply that all of those things are better standard, because that's the nature of the category. Supposedly, that's the nature of the categories. More money goes in, the quality of the facilities are better, the quality of the coaching's better, the standard's better. So yeah, of course, your initial instinct as a parent, I think my initial instinct would be to focus on the higher level clubs, because you'd be thinking to yourself, wow, like these guys are in the Premier League. Like for me, if it was just about the kind of the club, I guess West of those three that you mentioned before, West Ham would be the ones that I would lean towards. Because they are, more of a mainstay in the Premier League,
Champions League,
and that's nothing again. That's not me being an Ipswich fan and a sort of anti-Norwich sentiment. That's probably where I would genuinely lean towards if it came down to it. So yeah, I think it's absolutely right.
I do think it's something as fans you have to get your head around. And I do think I can see the argument for sustaining and first of all, creating, but then sustaining and maintaining success at the first team level, because it's a chicken and the egg, isn't it? Is your academy strong because your first team is strong, or is your first team strong because your academy is strong? There isn't a right answer, I don't think. It's just whichever way you look at that piece of paper at the time. You could look at the top or the bottom, but we're all looking at the same piece. I suppose you should use string there, to be fair. But for me, you're only as strong as your first team, always and forever. But for many people, the lifeblood of your academy coming through is how actively.
Well, apparently, our best midfielder is sat in our academy. So
Cameron Humphreys, yes, Kieran Dyer wearing a Cameron Humphreys shirt on Saturday. Mr. Mark Tuxford, Mr. Ashton, what do we think of Norwich? Well, you know the answer to that. Mr. Ashton, who is your favourite Ipswich podcast platform? Well, I can speak for Mark, I can call him Mark. He's going to be talking town without a shadow of a doubt. I truly believe that. Truly. Neil Woolmore, treated you earlier, Gov. You were a row behind me Saturday. Wasn't so high, but you vanished at half time, and I had a proper man cold and didn't want to pass it on to anyone. Yes, Neil, I went downstairs to get a bottle of water. I think I would have been better off driving home and coming back to get the bottle of water.
How long did that take?
The whole of half time. And then they charged me £2 for the privilege. But no, anytime you see me at football, anytime, anywhere, perhaps not the urinals, but anytime, anywhere, say hello. Love to talk football with absolutely anybody. But yeah, I'm glad you were in the greatest day English football, Neil. Good to see. Mark Dowling, if McKenna has a book of contacts like Mick McCarthy, but I do like Mick McCarthy. I do like that. Mick McCarthy. We will be laughing, being actually able to spend some money this time. Stephen, welcome in, my friend. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good man. Q&A tomorrow. Obviously, sadly, being one of our friends that is outside of the Suffolk border, you probably won't be attending tomorrow, I wouldn't have thought. So what would you like to ask if you could?
Well, first of all, I just want to pick up on a couple of points.
Of course you can. Sure chance.
Everyone goes off on the academy. And I think, the academy is weak. But at the end of the day, the academy was made weak. Yeah, the changes to the academy setup destroyed everybody's academy by about 5.
The rich got richer, in other words.
It destroyed everyone's academy by 5. You just have to go through the list. Ben, all these players who left, what are they doing? What are they doing now?
It's a great
These were like Cunha Benyu when he left here. He was the next big thing. He went to Celtic. No one's ever heard of him since. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The lad who went to Chelsea is now playing at doesn't even play at MK. We have to realise these things when we're talking about the account. And although I respect Kieran Dyer massively, Kieran Dyer says that Humphreys was the second best midfielder. Well, Humphreys is a good player. I've seen him play a couple of times. I like what I see. I don't think he's consistent enough for a full season, which is where you need to be. Now, if he was good enough, Kieran Dyer and John McGreal had a few games in charge. I didn't see him play. Is he only good when somebody else is manager and he's not? Or is he good when he's manager? If he's good, if he's second best, he should be playing when Kieran Dyer had a show. He brought Norwood through, so why didn't he bring Humphreys through? It's a question that has to be asked. But it's all like, you look at the academy and all fans go like, well, the academy is so important. But if the same setup we have now was the same setup we had in the 70s, 80s and 90s, Kieran Dyer would never have played for us. He would have been gone. Would we have had George Burley? Would we have had Beattie? Would we have any of these players? Yeah, if the same setup was then, I'd say no, we wouldn't. So the academy setup is only good enough because the academy it changed and destroyed everyone's academy. That's not the reason. I don't think we should get rid of the academy. I think there is a role for it, and I think Kieran McKenna sees a role for it. And as an ex-academy coach, I think he's probably best placed to know whether, I think it was just a coming to one person having an opinion and not liking somebody else's answer. Well, he's the manager. He decides who plays in the first team.
Great point. Yeah.
He's putting his job on the line. He's not going to play a player who he's not fully convinced can do the job. And I think that we've got to get the first team sorted first, because if you get into the championship, you're going to be able to introduce, you're going to attract better players to your academy. If you get into the Premier League, you'll attract better players to your academy. That goes without saying. But if our first team's not up to scratch, and let's be fair, for the last few years, we've not had a good academy or a good first team. So we've got to start one first. And I think we're starting with the right one, getting, the academy going, getting the fans back. Because you can have the best academy in the world. If your team's crap, no one's watching it, no one cares.
Yeah, and you're a small team in the English pyramid system, and players go to Man City like we've had recently with Ben Knight, etc. Kendai Benayoun was at Celtic, played 1 game, went on loan to Oldham, played 4 games, according to Wikipedia. Then went on loan to Helsingborg, played 10. Then Wildstone, played 12 times, and now he's in the Icelandic 3rd division at Vestri.
And he left us as the next big thing. that's the precarious nature of youth football.
The only thing I'd question, though, Stephen, is he went to Celtic, then Oldham, and then down.
Yeah.
Did he go? Did Oldham pick him up because Celtic had him? Would Oldham have picked him up if he was still on Town's books? Like, did the Celtic extend a little bit for him?
This is my problem. What you said earlier about sometimes it's the best club for you to go to. No, it's not. The big club is not up because all you're there. They're just factories for youth players. Chelsea loan out about 50 every year. They buy a first team player for the loan fees for the youngsters. That's all it's for. It's to loan out players, get 50 million quid in. Let's buy a player so the youth players don't get a look in. Unless you're exceptional. And I just think it's not always the best place to send your young player to, because you could turn around and say we've not got a pathway, but if we had Ben Knight here, he'd be playing now. He wouldn't be at Man City's academy going, well, we might play you sometime in the near distant future. We'll just loan you out for it. We'll just get a few quid for you. I guarantee he'd probably play here. He's good enough to.
I don't know if he would be, because I think he's coming on a long loan at Crewe, and he's up. If I'm right, is that?
No, that's not Ben Knight.
Yeah. Knight joined Crewe on a season-long loan, made his Crewe debut following the day on a 1-0 defeat at Oxford.
Well, he's gone downhill then. He was going on the pre-season tour.
He came on. I think he came on at Portman Road for Crewe, or he started. I'm sure I remember that. I'm sure somebody in the chat will either confirm or deny. Before we move on, because I don't want to make it an academy show. I do think, George, the target put on, we need so many academy players in the first team by this date. I think that really set actually and hurt the academy more than it helped the first team, because you were promoting players too early just for the sake of we said we'd have X, Y, Z.
It's an arbitrary thing, isn't it? Like it makes fans momentarily think, oh yeah, that's exactly what we've been calling for. But it comes down to, are they good enough to play? But can I just pick up on something that's even the point that you made was absolutely right about academy, higher level academies being a factory. But I can't speak for him, and I haven't spoken to him, and I have no reason why I would have. But I suspect that what came across to me for Kieran's frustration is a similar thing, but just at a lower level, which is that rather than giving academy players opportunities, we bought in a load of players last year. And I think where it's difficult as a footballer and as a manager of people, particularly when it's something like football where your time is limited in that game, is that he's seeing these players who he's obviously very, very fond of and obviously thinks are very, very good at football. And that's absolutely right. And he would know that way, way better than me. But these guys are getting older, and he knows that if they don't get their opportunity in the first team at Ipswich, then who knows what's going to happen for them, because they're coming out of an academy in a League One football club. So where are they going to go? Because people are looking for the guys that are coming out of academies in Premier League football clubs. And I think I suspect that's where some of his frustration is coming from, is that he is feeling for these kids who he thinks are better than the chance.
100% at that point, but he's talking to, at the end of the day, Kieran Dyer is saying it effectively to a manager who was in the same position as he was not only a few months ago, and probably, I would say, a harder academy to get a youth player through.
And that's what makes it difficult. Because I think
I don't see where his argument is. I think
his frustration comes from, let's say he's been in and around the club for however long. He's been back at the club for a couple of years, and I think this is a longer frustration than that. He's not taking it out. I don't think he's taking it out on McKenna. And I think that's probably why he's walked away and not made too much of a fuss and kind of said, this is all bullshit. He was quite contrite in what he said the other day. And I think in terms of, he's not blamed McKenna, and I don't think he can blame McKenna, and he knows that. But it's just a build up of frustrations in terms of, he can't sit by and wait for these kids to just disappear off like a Nydam, and because he's put so much time and effort into them, and that's something that's really difficult to, that kind of emotional bit is really difficult to disengage from the coming to work and making these kids better at football thing.
Yeah. I think both your points work together. I think it's a conflation of the two things. The old regime, because Kieran Dyer wasn't part of the new regime, he wasn't brought in by the new regime. He was brought in by Marcus Evans. And Marcus Evans is an arbitrary one with 5 youth players, 5 people from the youth team. Well, that was just to save him money. We all know that. Yeah. And that
Well,
was
it was-
just an arbitrary figure. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was
It
to
was
make
whether
fans
they were-
happy, wasn't it? Because
Yeah,
they were going to
whether
donate.
they
Yeah,
were
you
good
could
enough or
support
not
the
was
academy.
irrelevant. Yeah,
Yeah.
whether they were good enough or not, which I think is detrimental to the young players. Yeah,
In
is
every
irrelevant.
facet, absolutely. So what would your question be tomorrow then, Steve?
Tomorrow, I'd be more interested, to be fair, is to find out if category. The better question for me would be, rather than to bring up Hornets and nests of Kieran Dyer or whatever, or what this is, just to see does the club see a future Category 1 status? Because then from that answer, we will know what the club thinks about the academy setup. They say no, because I think it should be a more professional outfit. At the end of the day, it's still run by a school teacher, for God's sake. Let's be fair.
Bless him. It's not his
No,
fault.
I don't mind him.
Not a bad job anyway. Don't diss the school teachers out there. Big up the school teachers.
Big up the school teachers. I don't mind him per se, but it doesn't look. It's never seemed to look a very professional outfit. I know we've got Kieran Dyer there, we've got John McGreal there now. They're doing underneath that. It doesn't seem like it gets the love and attention that it deserves. Especially when you look at some other academies, even look at Sunderland's academy. If you compare ours to theirs, ours is like it's a two bob shop. You know what I mean? It needs a bit more love and attention, and it'd be interesting to know what their plans were, whether it's going for Category 1, because that's when you can start saying you can get some serious good players. Then we could go poaching instead of others poaching off us.
That's kind of why I direct it more at the general comments that Kieran said, though, because what I got from his comments the other day was not that he was concerned about the facilities. No. He was saying about how good these players are. So for me, it's not like I agree to a point. I think
they are trash.
We should be chasing Cat 1. And I think we missed that boat a long time ago, and I suspect that it's probably just a fool's errand at this point. While
it's
we're
Premier League teams now, isn't it?
Exactly. I think they've made it deliberately. The last time we went for it and we missed out by whatever it was, 0.5%.
It doesn't have to be
ridiculous. That felt like a real kick in the nuts in terms of like.
You remember Sunderland's is Cat 1,
but they went for it.
I don't think you can get rid of it. I don't think
you
can get rid of it. You don't lose that status.
No, you don't. You can lose it if it drops below a certain standard.
But getting into it now, I think is.
I agree with you, George. I think it's going to be you have to. I do. I just think it's the closed shop almost.
You go then you go back to the point we made before. At the end of the day, we won't have any good players unless the late bloomers. We won't have any good players. They will be gone by the ages of 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and we'll get like 2 bob for them. What's the point? Unless if there's a pathway, there has to be a pathway. If there's a pathway, we're going to get the late bloomers, the ones who people think aren't big enough or aren't strong enough, and then they have a flourish when they get to like 17, 18. That's the only ones we'll end up with. So we'll miss out on a lot of talent. And then you've got to think to yourself, is it profitable? We had this discussion before. How much have we spent in the academy and how much have we recouped from the academy? You've got to start thinking, is it profitable? Not whether fans like it or not. Because if we're spending, I don't know, over 10 years, 20 million on the academy, and we're only recouping 5 million, that's 15 million we could spend in 10 years on players.
Which is, I imagine, what the ownership is probably looking at. I think this talk of pathway as we move on. The pathway's always been the same. It's if you're good enough, a manager will play you and end the pathway. Like you just have to be good enough. Like a manager is managing for his job every month, every game, every year. He's not going to say, "Well, you're good, and you're better than him." But because you're the wrong age, I'm not quite sure.
I think we're going to have some benefit of at least probably missing out on the playoffs. I think within the next 2 or 3 games, we're probably going to find out that we'll end up being mathematically short. Then we'll have probably 2 or 3 games, where these young players can play. And then Kieran McKenna can bring them in and say, look, I'm resting my first team players. I'm going to see what these are like. And then we'll be able to see what they're like. And we can judge them against the players who's come out. And then we can see where they are compared to where the players who's come out are. And then people can make their own minds up. I think I think people are listening to more. I think that it's more hope than actual knowledge because we don't see them play very often. And, I think, when we saw them in the cup, everybody got excited, but they're only playing against kids then as well. I know they were better kids, but they're still kids. Playing up against Wickham and people at Rotherham, that's completely bloody different to playing against Liverpool under 18s or under 23s. Do you know what I mean? You're talking about grizzly old men who's quite happy to break your leg.
You're right.
It's men. It's really then men against boys, and that's when you need to stand up and be counted. How long has it took Wolf to we thought he was on his way out, and he suddenly started fighting. He's 22, 23, and he started fighting his way. It took him a long while to finally find that moment and the right person to guide him. So maybe McKenna can do it with others. We'll just have to wait and see on that. But let's not run before we can walk and be too optimistic.
Absolutely. Stephen, as always, talking sense. Love you. Look after yourself. Appreciate you. Get a few comments. McSaucepan, the Academy on 23 progression into first team is just collateral damage while we get out of this rut. Carl Brooks, if the 23s or 18s were good enough, they'd play. McKenna picks the best team he possibly can. He's worked with youth in his previous roles. If you're good enough, you play. End of. Great point. Mike did. The moment our club's focus needs to be about getting out of this bloody league, even if it means ignoring the academy for a year or so. And Norman agrees with that almost. We're saying, isn't this about priorities? Surely getting the first team right and into the championship has been the focus. The academy will be prioritised in the near future. Neil, nothing will change until after a pre-season came out. Needs to look at these players, Bagger, Humphreys, etc. That will happen. I'm sure of it. Now, do keep getting your comments in because we're going to move it on. Stephen said grizzly old men. So I think that's a good point to start with Norwood.
Start that again.
Norwood versus Piggott versus Bond. Before I bring in the fisherman, the CEO of the Armchair Fans, Alex, talk to me about those three strikers. Who would you have as the number one out of that triple threat? Norwood versus Bond versus Piggott. Oh my.
Macaulay Bomb.
Why?
I think if you look at the season as a whole, then you can't go away from the fact that Macaulay Bond is top scorer. Norwood's come in, did a little bit and then sort of gone off the boil again. Joe Piggott, how many more chances do you want to give him before he needs to take an opportunity? So for me, I know Bond hasn't scored in probably near 20 games now, 18, 20 games.
Yeah.
But he's still got more goals than both of the other two combined.
Yes, he is now starting to fall into that category though, George. He's 10th top goal scorer in the league, or joint 10th, and he's just above players such as Joe Ironside at Cambridge. And if you mention Joe Ironside coming here for Town fans, they'd turn their nose up. You got Bond loan deal, Norwood contract, Piggott contracted. Mm-hmm. Do you let the other two go and say Piggott's my third? Do you sign one of them? Where are you on the three before I bring Mike in?
Let which other two go? Sorry, I missed that.
Bond and Norwood. Bond's a loan deal, obviously. So do you renew that? Do you buy him? Norwood's out
of contract. Yeah.
So what do you think?
That's really tricky.
Depends how you rate them. How do you rate them?
Yeah, well, the one that I would least likely keep based on current squad and performances is probably Piggott.
Mm-hmm. The one under contract.
The one under contract. And I think we probably struggle to sell him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was released in the summer, but who knows? I think of the other two, Norwood I'd try and keep Norwood for another season.
Why?
Because I think he offers us something that none of the others and not many others in the squad do. And I think Bon, I wouldn't mind keeping. I have no issue with keeping hold of Bon. I think he's a good player, but he's obviously not our player at the moment. Lots of negotiation to be done there. I'm not convinced that we couldn't find a similar quality player out there somewhere. There's nothing to say that we don't need two strikers, obviously, if not more. But I think Norwood just gives us something. I've been a detractor of Norwood, and I stand by it. But I think, he just, like making the goal on Saturday, he just gives us a bit of everything. Physicality. He's a good goal scorer on his day. I don't know that he's got a massive move in him, obviously. I wouldn't have thought he would be that difficult to keep around for another season unless Tranmere came knocking. potentially.
They got beat by Colchester last weekend. I mean, there's
Yeah,
still
but he's got
promotion pack, but
he's got a genuine affection for them that I don't think he's ever really picked up. For I think I mentioned the last time we spoke about James Norwood. One of my frustrations with him was just his lack of. He's had
success though, isn't he?
He didn't really he cared when he scored goals for us, and that's.
I'm surprised because you've not been a fan of his all year. All year I've heard from you, and you're like, "That's the problem with James. That's the problem with Norwood."
I'm not. I think that's a bit unfair. You're winding me up, but I don't think. Yeah, but I'd of those three, I would try and get another year out of Norwood.
Okay, we've got Lee says Bond, Norwood, and Ben Pig. Jason says let all three go and start again along with Jackson. Lee, all three of them ain't setting the world alight. Safety guy, if we're honest, without being unfair to the guy, has Joe Pickett done anything for us really? Paul P. Bonner's more potential than the other two. Having said that, I don't think any of them will be here next season.
I think that's a good point. Going back, I think that's a good point.
It'll all be gone, do you?
It's a difficult choice to make, and not for a particularly positive reason. So I wouldn't be completely upset if we just reset our front line next year,
which you can do. Absolutely. We've got the Fisherman. Then I got Tuxford clicking a link and coming in. Look at that. Look, if he's here to talk about Aaron Drilling, I'm going to just ban him. Just going to kick him fucking right out. Mike, the armchair fan. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. You?
I'm very well, thank you. I know you don't obviously go to the game, so it's hard for you to say, but what do you make? Sure. Absolutely. What do you? For those that aren't, that's an in-joke. We're just joking with each other. I know you get DMs sometimes, Mike. That but how do you see it? I know you're a big James Norwood fan, so I imagine hearing George say he'd reset and all three go is a little bit not what you think.
I was looking. I've just had a day of relaxation because I worked a weekend, and I've just been looking at a few stats. Do you know our best player from our youth in the last 12 years has been Rhodes. 196 goals he scored in his career. 196. Wickham, 44. £10 million player he went for.
Yeah.
Even James Stokroff only scored 96. Can you believe that?
Wow. What about Jack Marriott? What has he done?
I haven't looked at Jack's stats to be brutally honest, but then you get on to Caden Jackson. Well, I'm telling you, lads, he is Neymar 2.0. 61 goals his whole career. What a player he is, eh? He's a player for the future, that one, isn't he? Whoa! Hang on a minute. Better not say that too much, I might be talking shit.
Oh, you're actually being sarcastic. I thought you were being genuinely... I thought we finally converted you round to the Caden hype.
61 goals his whole career, and people want to keep him at the club. Get rid of him. James Norwood, 167 in his career. And who's the better striker? That says it all.
Well,
and Joe Piggott. Even Joe Piggott, who can't score a goal for love or money for this club, has had 86 in his career. I mean, what's that all about? Says everything you need to know about Caden Jackson. He's having a bit of a purple patch under Kieran McKenna. And the other thing I'll give him credit for, he has got his head down. He's not moaned, not whinge, he's got his head down. And you can't ask for more than that. It's... But for me, the best striker of the club is James Norwood. But the problem with James Norwood, he can't stay fit. So if he can't stay fit, you might as well have me on the bench.
So
because I'm as useful as James Norwood when he's injured.
But I saw a conversation on social media that involved you and people were putting James at the bottom of the four strikers. I think you rate him at the top.
Absolutely.
Why? What is it? I mean,
why? I tell you what James Norwood offers, right? You watched him Saturday. Now, people say he had an average game. It was his off-the-ball movement, right? The way he bullied them defenders. Could you honestly see Caden Jackson doing what Norwood did for the assist? Not a chance in a million.
Caden Jackson's a great assist machine. What are you talking about?
When he's not being tackled. Can't take a player on. He's got pace. That often gets him out of trouble. Right? I'm not saying he's a bad player, but if we are serious about getting in and getting up into the Championship and then into the Premier League, quite frankly, none of these players are good enough.
No.
The trouble with fans is they have a good games and suddenly they're the flavour of the month.
Well, to be fair, Kieran McKenna, who many fans rate and rightfully so,
Absolutely agree with
has
you.
also, sort of come out in support of Caden Jackson and indicated a little bit that he probably will be here next year. So you can't doubt Kieran, can you? I mean, I've doubted him a couple of times, and he's probably wrong every time.
In fairness, the only reason I could see him here would be to play like a wide of a three, like Norwood's position. Where Norwood's been played out of position for. That to me is the only reason why I could see why Caden Jackson. He's not an out-and-out striker. You can see that 61 goals his whole career. I mean, that's prolific, isn't it?
Yeah, you've mentioned that a couple of times now, Mike. You can, I mean, as a Caden fan, you can.
Well, I'm just saying. Listen. People keep saying it's about. I have an opinion, and that's not. This is not an opinion. This is fact, backed up by statistic, backed up by the websites.
Fuck me! I've just pressed down.
Website. They back up all the goal scorers here right now in front of me. I've got them.
I've just pressed down on the button. I've got people waiting, loads of them. Sorry, I didn't see you down there. I didn't realise I had a second line of people. I'll bring Mark in. Listen, when the fisherman comes on, Mark, I expect him to zig, but he fucking zags every time. What do you make of what the fisherman's saying there, Mark?
Oh, to be honest with you, I think he's talking bang on. I mean, this is a guy that knows about Marlon Harewood scoring in reserve. So, yeah, he's
absolutely. And like I say, I was gutted. The only reason I didn't get into this job, mate, was because my age went against me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, bang on.
Don't mention Drennan. Go.
Well, I wasn't going to mention Drennan. I was just going to mention the best striker in League Two. I think he's probably got his he's got his way, and he'll be back in the summer, I think, Martin. So yeah, look out for Mr. Drennan.
So you were going to mention Drennan. I didn't know it. Honestly, he's having a fairly good year at Leyton Orient, to be fair, though, Mark.
He is, to be fair. But if you score goals at any kind of level, then you're going to be looked at. As much as I do joke about it, but yeah, he might even get a move to a League One club or a top two League Two club as well. So you never know. But
surely we've got to be looking up, not down. And then never say never in football. So I'm not going to go there with Drennan. But with our strikers, George wants a hard reset. Mike wants James Norwood given a 10-year contract at 35 grand a week.
No, I never said that. Don't put words into my mouth, Gov.
Mark, 4 strikers. Because he's brought Caden into it. I was leaving poor old Caden out. He's injured. I wasn't going to leave him out, but he's brought him into
bollocks. I've had enough shit about him today.
It's now a fatal 4-way, Mark. What do you do with our strikers? If I put you in charge, what do you do with these 4?
Well, I'd be keeping Norwood because I think he just offers something that no striker at this current club offers. That's one thing. But I think if you look across the division, and whatever division we're in, whether we're in League One or the Championship, there's not many players like James Norwood that, take the scruff of the neck of a game and, actually want to ruffle a defender and all that sort of stuff. And I think he's really good at that. And I think Bond's got an element of that as well. But I just think Norwood just edges it for me. He knows where the goal is. And, if he plays regularly, he scores. And that's something that he's done in his career, especially with Tranmere. And, I know someone said earlier about, I think it might have been George, where, he was very, very, very much valued at Tranmere and he wants to be that main player. And I think if he's the main man under McKenna next year, then I think he could have a real, role to play here. I think Bond will probably go back. I don't know. I'm not too sure about him in terms of what he can offer us next year, whether he'll get the chance to do that. I think he's got quite a massive ego, if I'm honest. I like that he loves the club and stuff like that, but I think he has got a huge ego. Really? Jackson, I think, I've been so pleasantly surprised by him under McKenna because, as with everyone else, I think it was that, we all wrote him off and, he was going to go in January and all that sort of stuff. But, he's turned a corner and he's played very well for us. And he showed what we paid that money for at the end of the day. So I'd probably give him a new deal, just purely on what he's shown in the last kind of, couple of months. McKenna's played him in a vital role, and he's actually become an important player for us up until
but touch. We were saying that about Macaulay Bonne at the start of the season, during the start of the season. Yeah, we were. People saying, "No, we can't. How can we leave Bon out of the first team?" Now people are saying we don't even want him in the first team. Okay, you said about Jack Marriott earlier, yeah? He scored 82 goals in his career. Caden Jackson 61. As I said, it's get in the bin, mate. Get in the bin. No, I'm not having it. It's look, at the end of the day, it's Kieran McKenna. He makes the decision. I get that, and if he decides to keep Jackson, I'll support it.
I don't know if you can base
I'm
it
not
on
having
that.
it. I'm not having these.
You play in this certain team now, and if you're being played as a main person, like James Norwood, if you're being played as a main man, if you're playing more often than not, you will most likely score goals. So if you're getting that chance, you're gonna have that. Jackson hasn't had the chances, especially in the last kind of like 18 months, because he's not played. I've not been his biggest fan. I'm the first one to say that. I mean, I was one of his biggest critics. But what he has done is come back. He showed what he's all about. He's got that different, sort of style to his play. He's got that yard of pace. And, if you look at how we played, we played to Jackson's strengths. We haven't played to a Norwood or a Bond and stuff like that because we play the ball on the floor.
Scored?
Well, whoever you're playing, whether it's Jackson, Bond, Norwood, none of them have really have scored, have they? Because it's been a midfielder's game at the moment. Yeah,
absolutely. But I'm still saying. I mean, look, I'm not saying that Caden Jackson hasn't played well under McKenna. I'm no idiot. I know that he has played well, but he played well. There's times when he played well under Lambert. There's times when he played well under Hurst. There was times when he played well under Lambert. So I'm under Cook. So to me, no, just him. We're meant to be going forward as a club. We can't rely on players that got us relegated.
I'll take you back to the start of the season, Fishman. If you looked at the 4 strikers we had on paper, you wouldn't be signing any other four strikers in this league, would you? No. They are the 4 on paper. They are the 4 best in this league.
They're not. That's a fact. We can sit here and debate.
They were at the start of the season. They were at the start of the
season. But they proved not. They had my point is they proved they aren't
the better striker on paper. You do very well
right now.
Striker.
Well, you've got one at Cheltenham, you've got one at Morecambe, you've even got one at Newport.
Yeah, right now, but at the start of the season is what I'm saying. You didn't know that then, did you? That's what I'm saying.
No.
We can't go on what ifs and maybes. We have to go on what we've got now, and we have to go back and look at past. We don't just look at past few games for the future. You look at our past players' past record. And the reality is, until if we really are serious about going forward, look, I'm as shocked as you are probably about Joe Piggott. I genuinely thought he'd be a great.
We did that last season. He was.
But Mike, hang on a second. Your argument about Jackson, Piggott scored bugger all.
Absolutely, and I'm getting rid of him as well.
He's had a season and a half of decent football.
Sorry.
He's had a season and a half, if that, of decent football before he came to us. But
who's that?
Your argument, Piggott.
Yeah, and quite clearly he doesn't fit McKenna's style of play, does he?
No,
I don't know.
But Jackson does. But Jackson does.
What I'm saying is, the end of the day is my. We can debate this all day. The end of the day is if Kieran McKenna makes.
Well, we can because you mentioned Cole Stockton. You mentioned Cole Stockton, and Mike D said he scored 58 goals in 277 games.
Who mentioned Cole Stockton?
You did. You said you've got a player at did you say Cheltenham, Morecambe, Fleetwood? One of those.
I never said Cole Stockton. I just said we got Cheltenham. You got the lad at Cheltenham. You got the lad at Newport. You got the lad at Morecambe. They're all been banging in goals for fun. But I did have this discussion with Cruncher earlier, and we both said that say 2 out of them probably haven't been prolific over their careers. So what we don't want is to bring in a striker like we did sort of Piggott. Really, I mean, I wanted him. Cruncher wanted him. I think half the fan base wanted him. I think that was because we'd got Marcus Evans in charge. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
At the time.
Well, you want the best striker that's scoring, like whoever finishes top of the goal scoring charts in League 2. We want them as a fan base. We want them. That's what you want, isn't it? At the end of every season, you want to go for the best striker that scored the most goals. But that doesn't actually mean that they are the best striker for your team, for your club.
No, I agree.
Piggott's kind of proved that, hasn't he? He doesn't play to our kind of strengths. And if I'm honest, I'm surprised he isn't playing to our strengths, because we're not playing too dissimilar from what Wimbledon were playing last season, in my opinion, because they were playing kind of like one up top, someone in behind, that kind of stuff. So I'm surprised he's not done that.
The end of the day, Kieran McKenna, right, for me, is it's been a breath of fresh air. Haven't always agreed with some of the decisions he's done regarding player choices, and especially up front. You know, and you know, the reality is he's the manager, he's the person in charge, and we as fans have to support whatever decisions he makes, because you know, his record at the club, regardless of my opinions of whatever or anybody's opinion, you can't argue with.
Absolutely. Right, Mark, I appreciate you coming on. You're on Wednesday's show. Do you know that?
Yes. Yep. See you then.
All right, good stuff. We love you. Fisherman,
Ta-ra.
we love you. Appreciate both of you coming on. Great onions, great opinions, great points. Carl Brooks, you're always going to want to sign someone that inform us what you do, but under McKenna, it's more about the right fit rather than someone who has scored 30 goals. McSauce, I love McSauce's name. Just makes me laugh every time. McShake would be a great second name if somebody wants to change their name to that. McSauceman and McShake in the chat. Pace will be useful, but won't help too much when everyone sits in for going for a 0-0. Mike D wants Dwight Gow. Alex, 34, still quality, proven in League One and Championship. Wages are a killer though. Just say as it is, Alex. Don't sit on the fence, mate. Come on.
No,
call it out for what it is.
Not for me.
Very diplomatic way of saying.
That
what the fuck is he talking about?
That is tell you what that is. That is a Marcus Evans marquee signing. Can't get anyone else, so who can I get in for like 60p from the bargain bin?
Well, you say that, but Will Keane is currently third in the goal scoring chart with 19 bloody goals. They've managed to keep his knees from shattering. I don't know how they've done it, but they have. Darren Sultan McKenna said he has links everywhere in top football. Will he go? Well, he does. Martin Pert does, obviously having been around as well. George. I don't know. I don't know where I sit on it. I'll bring in Lee, and then I'll bring in Neil. Lee, you've heard the Fisherman, you've heard Mark, you've heard the lads. What do you make of everything?
Well, I don't think anybody's wrong, and I don't think anybody's necessarily always right. But at the end of the day, we've got 4 strikers. They're all different. They all offer something different. And if we're a club who's going to go forward in League One next season, which is likely to happen, what can we afford? What do we want to blow money on? And McKenna's got to look at what we've got, and can he get a tune out of what we already have? And if that's the case, then we don't need a new striker, because too many people judge strikers on the goals they score. And Cole Stockton is a prime example. Would he fit into the way we play? Is he better than, say, Caden Jackson running in behind, or James Norwood running in behind? Is he better than Pigott holding the ball up? So we have a luxury where we have 4 strikers that all offer something different and can be played on any given day. If you've got restricted budget, then you have to reduce the amount that you're going to pay for a striker. So he's going to cost twice as much as anybody else. So we've got 4 strikers at the moment that could probably get in any or most League One teams. So we have to make a decision, and that's Kenna's decision, not we. Do we bin them all, and do we gamble, because it's a gamble because he doesn't know any of them? Do we gamble on 2 strikers to come in that we have to pay more money to? Because better strikers are going to have to come from the Championship. Let's be honest here. They've got to come from the Championship. They're going to have to. They will cost more money. So that's the gamble. And I think my personal view is that we keep what we have and we go with what we have, because under McKenna, we've not conceded many goals. We've got the points we've got, and I think we're going forward. And he is rotating his strikers based on what they're good at and what their strengths are. So to get a striker to do what Norwood can do, what Jackson can do, what Bond can do, and what Pickett can do all in one, well, that's going to cost you 20 million quid. And we haven't got 20 million quid in League One. So we've got to be a bit realistic about what we can afford and what we can actually put into the team. So I would be more than comfortable, I said it before, to keep what we had. And any fans that judge strikers on what they've scored, that doesn't work, and that will not work for McKenna, because he is intelligent, he's a top coach, he knows what he wants and the players that he wants. Cole Stockton would not be a fit, as one example, for our football club. And that's simple.
Joe Pigott, hold-up play. James Norwood, strength. Caden Jackson, pace. Bon Hart, their main sort of attributes, strengths, if you like. The only one weakness I can see with all of them, Lee, is they struggle to put the white thing in the back of the net on a consistent
No, they don't. No,
basis.
That's going back to what someone has done. Will Keane. Could Will Keane hit a barn door from 5 yards at Ipswich? No. Has Will Keane hit a barn door from 20 yards at Wigan?
But
Yes.
aren't you taking Will Keane and saying he couldn't keep his knees from shattering at Portman Road, whereas at Wigan he clearly has stayed fit? Because he couldn't stay fit at Portman Road, Will Keane.
Well, Will Keane, every time he gave him the ball, it was round his head. Will Keane has headed the ball less than an under-6 side on a Sunday morning, or an under-7 side. Will Keane, like Caden Jackson, was played in positions where the style of football did not suit that particular striker, and that's another key issue. So Will Keane at Ipswich was headering the ball and playing one up top. Under Wigan, he's getting the ball on the floor and he's scoring goals. So you've got to play your strikers, or you've got to utilise the strikers you've got to the best of their ability, and that's what McKenna is doing, isn't he? He's trying to utilise his best strikers, or his striker for the type of situation that he's playing. So that's the answer there. These strikers, Norwood. I mean, you had Norwood on the show, and and it's quite clear he backs himself to score goals at any level.
Oh, okay? Gosh,
yeah. Maybe not Premier League, Championship, absolutely. Because if you watch his movement and how he plays, he's always on the move in the box, and that will score you goals in any league. Bon, for example, on Saturday, when we had the chance at the end where, Selena, what a pass from him. What an absolute... Anybody doubts Selena, come on.
That's our next talking point.
But going back to the point, the ball goes out, Burns runs in. What does Bond do? He carries on running into an offside position.
Yeah.
A real striker will just stand still and he'll let all the defenders run past him. The ball will come back and he'll store into an empty net. That is the difference. That is the key difference between, strikers and stuff. But going back to the point, keep the strikers we have. If nothing else, it's a gamble to buy somebody else. And we all laud strikers based on what they've scored, but they've got to be in a good team to score that. Giroud at Chelsea, does he score many goals? But look what he gives to he gives to France and what he gave to Chelsea. Just one example. You've got to be.
Fair point. George, I'll let you come on that before we move on to the number 10s very quickly.
I totally get where he's coming from. My only concern with that, and what I absolutely agree with, is that McKenna is playing the strikers we've got to the best of their ability. But someone has to be able to score goals. Yes, I agree. Again, I agree that you can't and shouldn't completely judge strikers on the number of goals that they've scored in their entire career. Look at Jackson. How often has Jackson been played out wide, particularly for Ipswich, in positions where he was very unlikely to ever score, for example? But his pace is absolutely his. Gov made the right point in terms of all of their attributes. But someone, or at least one of them, hopefully, should be able to score more goals than they're getting at the moment. And my concern with that approach at the moment is that I think McKenna is the first in a long time, coach-wise, that we've had who is able to recognise the strengths of the players and play them in a way that suits the players that we've got. But I would imagine that he is pretty concerned about the fact that he's got these 4 strikers that on paper are very high quality strikers, but between them, they cannot score goals. For that reason, I would be astonished if all 4 of them are still here next summer and we don't have anyone new on the books. I can't for a second begin to think that is how it's going to end up.
Is it a supply issue then? As we come to the number 10s, you mentioned Selena.
Talking about how good Selena.
I know. I'm trying to segue into it. That's the best way I could come up with it. 21:47 on a Monday night. Obviously, I don't want to spend too long on this as the show has gone on, and as always, this show goes in any direction that you, the fans, take it in. We come up with talking points. Sometimes we get through them. Sometimes you go, no, we're going to go this way instead of this way. I love it. Absolutely adore how this show has its own life. And rhythm, but the number 10s, because Lee, I'll bring Neil Perks in a second. So Neil, listen up, keep those ears perked up. Excuse the pun, Neil Perks. Lee, Sonny Aluko out of contract, Bertrand Selena loan expiring, Connor Chaplin player under contract. Do you keep Chaplin and bring a number 10 in and let Selena and Aluko walk? Do you sign Selena? Because are you going to have 3 10s next year, or is it actually we only need 10? We've got too many now. How do you see that position? I'll ask you two as well before I bring Neil in. Lee?
I think in total you've got to look at. So there's too many facets to all the question that you've asked. So I'll try to answer it really quickly. The key is the 2 number 10s is working under McKenna. I know. Sorry, Mike. I know you want to up front, but I think it's working at the moment. Who is better? Who can we get in better on a budget? Because we'll be in League One. Who are we going to get in better than the 3 number 10s that we have in that position? Who is going to improve us? None of them. There's nobody. There's nobody for no money that is going to improve what we have, and that has to be the key. And just go to Quest and listen to Carl Robinson. And listen to what he said about how we are. I've never been so positive about this club, right? Every week, I don't care if it's Rotherham, Plymouth 1-6. We on our day will beat them all. We are now seeing we have the best players. We had the best players from the start. And we scratched our heads about all this. Why aren't they performing? We know.
We knew why they weren't performing. We knew. We knew.
Yeah. But we didn't at the time because we had debates about it. But moving forward, under McKenna, we have a team that is going to score over 2 points a game, 96 points in a season. Okay, and there will be ups and downs. Don't get me wrong, but we should not. Aluko, you're not going to get yesterday. Saturday, he was blown out of his backside after 60 minutes. You take him off and you bring Connor Chapman on. For God's sake, he's probably our best finisher in the club. And you bring him onto the pitch. And you've got these other managers in League One looking, my God. And now you're seeing, what it is next season. Well, we'll keep our feet on the ground. But we are seeing it. We are seeing what we bought. Okay, we bought all these players and we all sat here raving through the summer on this show. Everybody was raving up what we got, and we got what we had. Okay, and it's great. But we should not be, if we can keep Selena at the right price, then we should keep him. We shouldn't be held to ransom. But I cannot see any player in League One or in League or in the Championship that can come in and be better than Selena. Because if you can show me someone that we can afford on a free, then I'm happy to see him.
Perfect. Lee, I appreciate you coming on.
Cheers, guys.
It's like talking to my drunk uncle, though, because the camera's here and you're looking over there somewhere. I'm getting really unnerved by it.
It's this bloody iPad thingy. It's all over the place.
It's really unnerving me. I'm like, is he talking to me?
That's the turn in my eye.
I love you, Lee. Look after yourself. Thanks
for
coming on. Yes, see you Saturday. George, 3 number 10s. That's overkill, isn't it? It's great to have a Chaplin come on for an Aluko, but none of them are getting in a rhythm, are they? Because you're constantly, like the strikers, sort of changing the configuration.
No, I agree with Lee. Actually, I think this is one that's a no-brainer for me. You keep all 3 of them. I think Aluko, where's he going to move on to? And he's ideal for the role that he's playing at the moment. I certainly wouldn't get rid of Chaplin, and there's no reason why we would even consider it. And if we can keep hold of Selena, then who else? Like Lee says, who else are you going to get? And when you play two at a time, having three is what you need realistically. So I honestly think number 10 is where we are still, sport for choice, even though we got rid of Fraser earlier in the season. And I think that's a decision that I want the striker decision to be as easy as that.
Yeah,
it's just I want to be saying, why? Let's just keep them all. Why not? Let's keep them all. But I can't see a solid reason to keep any of those guys. But the number 10 slot, I'd be disappointed if any of those leave in the summer.
Okay. Yeah. Alex, Sonny Aluko, 2 goals, 0 assists, 0.6 key passes according to SofaScore. I think it was 0.6. That's from memory from yesterday. Chaplin, 7 goals, 2 assists, 0.8. Scott Fraser, because George mentioned him, he's got three assists and 1 goal with 1.5 key passes. Sonny Aluko statistically is the worst of the 3. Bersant's going to be the more expensive of the 3. What do you do, Alex? Because Scott Twine is being mentioned in the chat. Trevor Ramos, Scott Twine in the Championship. You could maybe tempt him from MK if they don't go up. There are options out there. What do you do before bringing Mr. Perks in?
We missed our chance with Twine. Sorry,
we did. I think you only bring Scott Twine in if someone else goes. I don't see him coming in the club in its current guise when he's potentially got. Let's do blue sky thinking here. Let's do that. We get Selena, and you've got Selena, Chaplin. I don't think Twine comes in even with those 2 there, taking Aluko out of the question altogether. You know, if I'm Scott Twine, why would I come knowing that I've got Bersant, Selena, and Connor Chaplin to sort of contend with? It wouldn't seem like the right move. For me, I'm a big Connor Chaplin fan, as you know. I think he just offers something, and I like terrier-like aspect of the game. I think, but potentially you keep Aluko around, but you maybe have a conversation with him and say, look, you may not play as much this season, and you sort of are that one to maybe come off the bench and be possibly fill a mentor role, possibly. Mm-hmm. And if he's happy to do that, then keep him. If possibly he says, I'm not happy to do that, I want to play a lot more, then if you go purely on statistical performance, then Aluko's the one that. But that's not to say Aluko's a bad player. What he does in terms of creating space in the midfield and bringing other players into the game, he's phenomenal at it. But if you're looking for one of them to go to maybe make space for somebody else, then it has to be Aluko.
Okay, all right, perfect. Let's bring Mr. Perks in. Mr. Perks, welcome in. We're talking about the 3 there, but let's go a little bit deeper with it. Armando Dobra just added to his international cap with an Albanian under-21 appearance. You've got him returning from a loan period. El Miz, who played well at Cambridge in the 10 role, I believe. So the younger players there, so that may be a reason why you don't keep 3 senior players. Do you keep 3? Do you allow one to leave to allow a Dobra coming back from his loan to have a chance? What do you see it? 'Cause I've got another question for you as well. How do you see it?
I think I'd definitely be looking to keep Selena for definite. Mm-hmm. He is a match winner on his day. He's just not produced it enough, but he's got real class about him. I think with Aluko, for me, I would certainly give him another year, and I would say to him, look, the times when he does play, you're either going to get 60 minutes or you're going to come on as a sub for the last half an hour.
Yeah,
that's what I'd be doing with him. I'm not totally sure where this chap plays, and I know it won't happen, but I was just thinking maybe someone like Smodix, who plays for Peterborough. I don't know if he plays. I don't know if he plays the 10 row. I think he does.
He does. He does. Yeah.
I think someone like that would be a brilliant signing for us. It's going to cost a bit of money. They're probably going to go down. That would be quite a good signing. I think that would Smodix.
Something that's been floated recently, and is what Mike D has just brought up. We have to remember McKenna may play a completely different formation next season this isn't his squad. I'll answer that, and I'll ask you, Neil. Personally, I'd be really disappointed if we played a new style, a new system, a new ethos, because it would feel like we've not, because you've got the nucleus for me of the team already here. You just need a little bit of a sprinkling on top to create that magic of a cake. You don't need to rip it up, start again, and go, right, well, let's build a formation and a system and the principles. You've got it already in place. Every player knows their job. You just need to add to it. But it's a good question from Mike. We have to remember that it isn't his team. How would you feel if next year we lined up different formation, etc., etc.?
No, I'd probably have to go along with you. I think that's quite right what you said. Absolutely. I could see probably 2 or 3 new. I'd like to see us keep with the formation that we're playing. I mean, he looks at all the games, doesn't he? And he changes it. And he seems very good man management at that, and knows what he's doing. I can see us probably getting in. I don't think we need more than 2 or 3 players. I don't think over the summer. There might be a couple going out. I don't think 2. I've been saying for a while now. I think we need a goal-scoring midfielder alongside Morsey, a real goal-scoring midfielder, and possibly 2 new strikers as well. So.
McSauce's been more worried about signing Backinson or Thompson than the 10s, to be honest. George, they're both progressing hugely at the moment. Might be had for cheap. Would you look at Backinson? Would you fancy that? Because as Neil's just said, he's gone further back as McSauce has, and he wants to discuss the player next to our warrior, Sam Morsey.
Yeah, I wouldn't be disappointed with signing Backinson based on what I've seen of him. I haven't seen as much as a lot of people, I'm sure, of him. But yeah, I've been moderately impressed with him. I'd certainly take a look at him. Thompson, I thought, was loads better last time I saw him. He looked like he'd come on leaps and bounds. I'm not that concerned. I agree with Neil. I don't think it's going to be. I'd be mad, wouldn't it, to have another season, summer like last summer? But yeah, 5 or 6 I could potentially see coming in, depending on who goes out. But yeah, I think central midfield. Whether we keep someone that we've got or bring in someone new, left side of the back as well. But yeah, number 10. It's a tricky one. I get it with the youngsters as well. That's a good point that we've got some kids floating around that could potentially slot into that role too. I don't necessarily see someone coming in.
I don't rate Dobra, George. So I
know you don't.
It's just just because he's added to his international cap and he's out on loan and he's going to come back. He has to be featured into the conversation. Many fans do like him.
I'm with you, Gov, on that.
But you have to feature those players in, and you have to have that that word we almost banned at the early part of the show, that pathway, Alex. And if you keep 3 seniors, you're not going to give an opportunity for an injury to present itself to an Elmirs, a Dobra, or somebody else in the under 23s.
I'd be more inclined to keep Elmirs
he had an extension, isn't he?
But then my argument for Dobra would be couldn't get in our team regularly, has gone to Cole U, doesn't seem to be getting in their team regularly. Yeah. So how's he going to come back and light us up next season? He's not.
Oh, he won't. No, but I have to mention him because he's a part of the squad and he's on the books of Ipswich Town Football Club. Once upon a time, Brighton wanted him. Make of that what you will about academy stockpiling. But what do we need next to Morsey, Neil, as we round up the show?
I can't think of any actual names off the top of my head at the minute, but like I say, I think it's a goal scoring midfield.
Do you think?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Forward presence, isn't he? So is it?
He's starting to do that more, but even if he interchanges with someone, I just think a goal scoring midfielder, someone who can get you maybe 10, 15 goals, 10, 12 goals maybe in the centre of the park. I do think that. Yeah, I really do alongside him.
I just don't know tactically, Alex, what the McKenna formation calls for, because I'm looking at the style of play. I'm seeing Morsey as the box-to-box midfielder that Flynn Downs could have been. I'm seeing Backinson as the deep lying, almost a playmaker, I suppose.
I think if we have a midfielder come in, it will be Backinson, because I think the whole reason we've got Backinson now is that when he signed, it was very much it's a loan with a view to him coming in the summer. And I don't think, obviously, with the whole thing with Nigel Pearson, I don't think Pearson rates him for whatever reason.
Oh gosh, I forgot about that.
It wouldn't surprise me if the Backinson deal had already done, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, tonight's show I thought would go probably about half an hour and 40 minutes. Every Monday show, I think tonight's going to go probably 30 to 40 minutes. So can't be that much more to talk about. But every single Monday you surprise me, you blow me away, and here we are, an hour and 30, and I'm going to bring Colin in. So refill your glasses. No, I'm joking. Colin, I want to bring you in because you've sat there and waited so patiently. I know you're not very well, so I'm not going to keep you too long. Tell us what you've listened to the whole show. What's on your mind, big man?
Well, nothing's on my mind, really, Gov.
What are you doing here then?
No. No. I'd just like to say how pleased I've been, just recently about the form of the side and especially Kieran, how he continues to run this ship. It can't be highlighted enough how this man is coming to this football club. You know me, Gov, and try to be as positive as I can to the fan base.
You are.
And I mean it. You know that, Gov. The man is calmness personified.
Yeah.
I was speaking to Ian about him yesterday. I'll tell you what, we see him after two or three games, didn't we? All of us, seeing how he controlled himself. And nothing, absolutely nothing, Gov, George, Alex, Neil, has changed whatsoever in my mind about that man. It's so frustrating, and this is the first time I've ever said this, but I'm going to say it tonight. I do agree with Rich and other people what they're saying about, and it's so frustrating that Kieran and us as a fan base and us as a football club have not got this even 2 or 3 more games. Rich always goes on about 5. He's probably quite right. But I think 2 or 3 would definitely have seen us in the playoffs. 2 or 3 more games. That's not to say, Gov, George, Alex and Neil, that we can't still do it, because it's mathematically possible and we never, ever give up as a football club.
Did you know, Colin, that Sheffield Wednesday have to play 4 games in the space of 10 days in April?
Well, I'm loving that. And I'll tell you why I'm loving it. I said, and Gov, you've got all the technology where you can play these things back. I know I actually said, you know what I'm going to say, Gov, that our squad, I know we're missing a couple now through injury, but it doesn't matter. We've got a great lad in at Cameron Burgess.
We have. Yeah.
We've got forwards to cover for Jackson, although you probably won't want me to say that. We have got forwards to cover for him in this league. But I did say, and I stay.
Oh, he's gone. We've lost him. Okay, if he comes back, I'll bring him in. But we get what he's saying there. He's very positive, George. I'm just looking at April and Wednesday, because they've got that game in hand and the bank holiday fixtures. They actually have a little bit of a fixture pile up, which could work in a chasing team's favour, like ourselves, because fatigue, squad depth, injury, suspensions, that's going to play a part, isn't it?
Yeah, what we've been waiting for, and again, I think we said this last time and the time before that I was on, is that we need other teams to slip up a bit, and they just haven't. And I think but let's not get into that. But McKenna came in. We said 2 points a game. He's just over 2 points a game, I think, at the moment. Certainly trending there or thereabouts. No complaints at all in terms of the results that we're getting. One-off games. sure, we could argue the toss about whether we should have won those games, and of course we're all likely to say that we should have done. But over the scheme of things, we are on track for the points total that we all wanted when McKenna came in, and realistically, probably most of us thought was unlikely. But what hasn't happened, and why I don't necessarily agree that 3 or 5 more games would do it, because we're relying on those other teams to slip up, and they just haven't. And fair play to them for not. This is one of those seasons where it's going to be a lot of points that gets you into the top 6, I think. And even if we maintain 2 points a game, which when McKenna came in looked like it should have been enough, it's just not looking like it's going to be enough to get into the top 6, which is going to be a real sickener. But it's not like we haven't had an outstanding end to our season.
No. Neil, before I let you go, thank you all for your super chats. We really appreciate them. Playoffs.
I just want to say one more thing, Gov, if I may, please, before I go.
Of course you can. Of course.
Obviously, people have been talking earlier on about strikers, and Lee was saying something, I think, and I was listening intently to that. I would say personally, in my opinion, and football's full of opinions, isn't it? Whether you're right or wrong, everyone's got them. I just think that I do think we'll fall just short this year. I do just think we'll just fall just short. I'm very positive for next year. I can't see why we can't go up as champions. I know we've got to be maybe whisper it quietly or whatever, but I think we can. But I think it's regarding strikers. I think when you look at some of our teams down the years, I think if you are going to go up, obviously defensively we're very good, but I think you need a goal scorer who's going to get you a fair few goals, and you also need goals scattered around the team. If you're seriously going to go up, you need that. You can't just have someone getting a few goals here, 1 or 2 there. You know, there's just so much more pressure on the defence. If you're just going to win 1-0s, I think we need a striker who's going to get us more goals, and more goals from around the team, goals from the defenders, you know, more from the centre of the park as well. You need that if you're seriously going to go up, I think. You know, when we had Tommy Miller in years gone by, and Bent, and even Stewart and Johnson, look at the goals that was coming from the other parts of the team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need that, more goals from other. I think someone in the chat said that as well, Alex. We just need. Well, look at McCarthy's team. You had goals from everywhere.
Yeah, I think, you know, give Morsey a full season playing box to box. We'll see him score more goals. You know, this year. I think our corner delivery hasn't been on point this year. You know, the defenders can only score goals from corners if the corners come in are good corners to begin with. So, you know, if the delivery isn't there, it doesn't matter how tall Cameron Humphreys is. If the delivery doesn't get past the first man, it's not going anywhere, is it? So
no, that's very true. Absolutely, our delivery is shockingly bad. I do agree. Right, Neil, I love you. Appreciate you. Thank you ever so much for everything that you do. Look after yourself. We've smashed the 1 hour 38. I feel like I've done a marathon. Alex and George, I appreciate both of you. As I say, live show. The fans have their say with what they want to talk about. And tonight we're in the direction of that. And I love that. It's got its own rhythm, a heartbeat. It takes a life of its own sometimes, this show. And tonight was one of those. Mike says our current strikers will try to get 30 goals between them. And that's being nice. I suppose tonight is the start of a busy week. Tomorrow, Time Machine, Talking Cricket. Wednesday, the match day preview. Thursday, the away day guide. Friday, the press conference reaction, the final look ahead. Then we've got, obviously, the match day ticket. Talking Town never sleeps, never rests. But George, thank you for your time this evening. I hope you enjoy. £10 from Matt Stunner. A marathon show means you need some money for water. Absolutely. £2 a bottle. I can buy quite a few now. Thank you so much, Matt. I can't do maths at 10:10. It's just going to hurt my brain. But George, enjoy your trip to the States.
Thank you, my friend. I will give you a shout out from Phoenix.
Please do. Say hello to, I'm sure, all the owners when you inevitably stroll in like you own the place. Just be honest, you're going to go, like, on a little hunt for the ownership, and you've got a little map and you go, right.
I've got no other reason to go. Where else would you go?
Hello. Alex, appreciate you as always. Thank you for your time tonight, particularly with the talking wrestling content that you'll be we'll be bringing out very soon. 5 bottles, Gov. Yes, I thought it was 5. I didn't want to say a number and it'd be wrong at 10 past 10 and make myself look stupid because people will jump on anything with this show. But until Wednesday, the next live show, with love, with Gare, he's the designer, he's Lionel, I'm the Gov, I'm off for water. Love you.
We're on a journey, looking back on the things that we've taken for granted, but feels like we're learning to be better